Ajay, take it away.
Thank you so much. So thank you again to Louis and all the speakers who came here, Steve, Jenny. It's good to have this interaction and this engagement. So I'll wrap up the session with the final talk that talks about cucurbits in high tunnels. Louis did hit upon some of those major crops, and like he showed some pictures of those specialty melons, for example, the Anna Charente, the Tasty Bite, the Sugar Cube. Those are some specialty melons, and we have tried that here at the Iowa State Horticulture Research Station. There's a publication that we have. We tested 10 specialty melons, and Nicole Jonas, Red Granite Farm, actually served as one of the grower collaborator on that project. So she also wanted to see which one is good. So if you're interested in those specialty melons, these are 1 to 3 pounders. Let me know, email me. I can send you that publication that talks about the characteristics and, more importantly, the sugar levels. Because the consumers remember, oh, Tasty Bite, that was great, or Sugar Cube. So we can provide those numbers to you so you know which one is more sweeter. And there were some other unique melons we grew. Snow Leopard is one of them. It's a little bigger, but it's green and pale white in color from outside. So that's very unique. Divergent was another specialty melon there. So if you're interested, let us know.
Any Sprite melons, the Sprite melons, the white fleshed Korean type?
No, the Snow Leopard was the only honeydew type which we had in there. Most of them were all small. Tasty Bite, Sugar Cube, Anna Charente. Okay, so let's talk about cucurbits. And this is a picture here that's showing an experiment which we did a while back. Just what Louis mentioned, to compare what you get when you have cucumbers trellised versus growing on the ground. And so we were interested. So this is a picture from that. I'll talk about that shortly. So when we talk about cucurbits, especially when we talk about these crops inside high tunnels, I mean, there are many crops within that family, from cucumber, muskmelon, watermelon. But there are, if you look at the profitability-wise, cucumbers are the ones that really fit in that season extension, that high tunnel area. I do agree to Louis, maybe, yeah, there's protection from rain also, but for the space, the amount of price which you get out of these cucurbits, Kate, you are growing a lot of those in the high tunnel, primarily the Mediterranean types, the small snacking types. I think that's the way to go. Because if you look at the pricing for cucumber, the market, the higher price stays up till maybe the end of June. And then the middle of July, the price tanks. And that's because all the field production is in the market. So the incentive which you get of growing the cucumber in the high tunnel is gone. So that's why if you can start early and get the produce out somewhere, maybe end of May and that whole month of June, that's where the premium is. So that's where cucumbers fit really well inside a high tunnel production system. So this is the AgStats, the NAS data from 2022 from USDA. And I just put it out there to show you why cucurbits are important to our state. Because of all these crops, I mean, this is based on acreage. The largest acreage of the crop here in the state is sweet corn, about 3,000 acres. Then we have green peas, and that's for processing. And I was talking to Beanie recently. I looked at a USDA stat data and I was talking to Dan also about this. Where do we have acreages of fresh vegetables versus processing vegetables? So when you look for processing, the number one county where processing is happening is Hardin County. And I believe that's because of beans. The number 2 county is Boone County. And that's because Bird's Eye contracts with growers in Iowa to grow sweet peas and sweet corn. So that's Boone. And number 3 was Kossuth County. And that's where Beanie is from, Kossuth County North. And I was wondering what is happening in Kossuth County. They do have Hormel Foods based in there. Hormel does like meat related stuff, but they also do processing. But then Beanie told me, like, yeah, there are some growers northern part of Kossuth County who grow peas, right? Green peas. Yeah, so that's why you can see green peas is up there at the top in terms of acreage. Pumpkins, number 3 in the state of Iowa. Then you have beans, then you have squash, then you have watermelon, you have cantaloupe. So of the top 10, you can easily see 4 of the crops are cucurbit crops. So they fit really well to the weather conditions which we have here in Iowa. So in total, we have about 7,600 acres of vegetables, which has actually gone down. It was 7,700 in the 2017 Ag Census. So we hope in the 2027 Ag Census, the acreage will come back. So if you look at cucurbits, this is more for information. I mean, even though they are in the same family, yep, Dan.
I just want to say real quick, while we're talking about this ag census, I know everybody wants to just throw that thing in the garbage when it comes in the mail, but
Please do
but,
that.
but please don't, because the one reason it may be that it went down is because people aren't filling it out. So please do fill it out, because that we rely on that information for well, I mean, for funding for programs like this, for instance.
Exactly, and then funding that comes to IDALs is also a little bit based on the acreage. So the specialty crop block money that comes into the state from the federal government, it's based on acreage. So if the acreage goes down, the funding goes down to the state. So cucurbits, to highlight, even though they are all in the same family, yellow like squash, zucchini, cucumbers, melon, but the life cycle is different. The maturity is different. So you can look at some of the quick maturing ones, squash and zucchini. You have those 70 to 90-day one, melons and watermelons, and you have squash, which also does really good in our state, acorn squash, butternut squash, buttercup squash. But primarily for high tunnel production, you are mostly focusing on here because it's short duration, you can quickly grow them, and if you can get it out in the market early, you get a price incentive. So this is cucumber production data, more for information. Florida is #1 in the country when it comes to cucumber production. You can see more southern states popping up there. Michigan is #3 when it comes to cucumber production. So those are the 3 powerhouses, and again, some more northeast states up there. In California, I like this slide because oftentimes when I show vegetable, California is always #1. But in this crop, California is not #1. It falls behind there. There are reasons why cucumbers are best or suitable or suited for high tunnel production. 4 to 5 week earlier production in spring. Obviously, you get some season extension in the fall as well. Better control on crop growth, no rain, less diseases. You can fertigate, you can apply the right amount of fertilizer, right amount of water, and of course, disease control. Although it sometimes becomes challenged late in the fall with powdery mildew, and also like in tomatoes, you have the leaf mold. But overall, I think growing conditions within the high tunnel are much, much better as compared to outside. When you talk about cucumbers, the different types out there, I just put the 3 major ones or the major categories. You have the pickling cucumber. We don't grow much of the pickling cucumber here in the state. Michigan is #1 when it comes to pickling cucumber, all mechanically harvested. Then this is more what we know of is the slicing cucumber. And now there's a lot of movement in English cucumber or Mediterranean cucumber because different shape, higher price. When you go to Hy-Vee, Fairway, you see those long ones in polyethylene, like all covered, and they are higher value, they are more crunchier, no seeds in there. So there is a shift happening in that direction. So because these are long and narrow, edible skin, more mild to sweet taste, and often called the seedless or burpless. And the slicing cucumber, these are the Dasher 2 types or the Cobra, long and green and slender. The skin sometimes could be a little hard and maybe sometimes a little bitter depending on how it was grown. If it was harvested late, it could do that. But within the slicing, there are some new ones that are coming up. Those are the smaller snacking types. So this is a picture which I took at the Plant Peddler, Cresco, Mike Gooder, his greenhouse there. And he was looking into snacking cucumbers like this one. If you go to Fairway, if you go to Hy-Vee, you buy those small bags which have like 6 or maybe 5 or 6 of them in there. Kids love it. I mean, I don't think so just kids, but adults love it. I like to eat it because it's easy, it's snacking, you eat it and it's gone. There's no need of a chopping board, no need of slicing, it's just you can eat it like a snack. So I think this is a crop that definitely, for Iowa, I think we should explore more of what are some things we can do in this particular crop. In the winter, all the cucumber which we are consuming in those snacking types are basically coming from, which place? Michigan, okay. Further north is from Canada, the Ontario area. They have like thousands of acres under glass. So this is all high pressure sodium lamp, LEDs. There are 2 farms in that area. One of them is called the Mushi. The name is Mushi Farms, M-U-C-C-I. So if you look at the packet and look underneath, you read the label, you'll see that name. And another one is Mastronardi farms. Those are the two farms that produce the cucumber, which North America, primarily the Midwest, consumes in the wintertime. But my reasoning is, okay, so that's okay, wintertime they can grow, but in the springtime, maybe we should take it over from there to here, because this is a crop which everybody is familiar, and there is a market for it.
Do they make
Steve?
Parthenocarpic versions of those?
Yes, so the question is about parthenocarpic, yes, and I'll talk more about that. What is parthenocarpic cucumber? So, too fast. So, in terms of cucumber, especially, some of you might have experienced this. They do not like to be transplanted roughly. They are okay to be transplanted, but they don't do as well as tomato or pepper, which you can literally stand and throw in the hole. No problem. It will go there, it will establish. But with cucumber, you have to bend and you have to put it and be gentle with it. And I have seen that what happens is if they go through the transplant shock in the June, let's say if you're planting out in the field, the transplant shock delays the growth by a few days. It just doesn't grow, it just sits there. The more it sits there without doing nothing, the more chances for it to be susceptible to cucumber beetles, which I think also is a big problem, because I feel, again, I've said this joke several times, in the spring or when you're planting, these cucumber beetles are actually sitting on the fence post and watching you. Oh, here, okay, and so so that's why the least amount of shock we can give these plants when we are transplanting them, the better for them to quickly start establishing and growing. So in terms of ease of transplanting, you can see some of the easier one, broccoli, tomato, cabbage, lettuce, but the difficult ones are mostly the cucurbits. So handle their root system a little bit more carefully, don't squish them too much, and plant them gently. With cucumbers, Louis mentioned about the uniformity. So the advantage of growing transplants is that everything is uniform. You pay a higher value for that seed, so why not have all the seeds germinate and all be plantable rather than missing or losing some plants. So it takes about 10 to 14 days for them to be ideal for transplanting. Sometimes you can extend it to maybe 20 days, but I won't go beyond that. So they like to be in that 2 to 3 week period. Again, be careful not to damage. Any problem with these plants? These are cucumbers, by the way. What do you think has happened here?
They got leggy.
They got leggy. That's because we kept them in the trays for a longer amount of time. So this was maybe 3.5, 4 weeks, and they all stretched. And when they stretched, and you plant it in the open, and then you see it snapping because of the wind. So the shorter they are, the more stout they are. That's better. And so that's 14 to 20 days. Don't go beyond that. So this was one of the problems we faced by keeping them in the tray for a longer amount of time. So stayed in the flats for too long. Hardening off is also very important, especially when you're growing seedlings in the greenhouse, and after 3 weeks you want to bring them out. We highly recommend that you keep them out maybe under a lath house about for 5 days or so. This picture I took part of my PhD work at Michigan State. This is the lath house which we have there. We put them on this wagon, we pull it under this lath house, leave it there for 5 days, done, and then we transplant. So that transplanting gives that plant to go through the temperature fluctuation, morning high, night low. Some of the pests, for example, aphids and other, if they were there, the beneficials come, they get an opportunity to eat them. So acclimatization is always good. I was talking about English cucumber, and you can see an image there. This picture is not from United States. This was taken. We were traveling, part of a study abroad for students in Heidelberg, Germany, and there we visited several high tunnels, all growing these English type cucumber. They're super popular there, and all trellised. Sometime in the perlite bags, not in the soil. So it's more like a hydroponic kind of production system. So when it comes to flower type, this is some basic biology stuff, but I think it's important we know that our cucurbits are primarily monoecious, and that means mono is one. It's a Greek word. Mono is one, and ecious means home. Monoecious, one home, which means the same plant will have male flowers and female flowers, so 2 different flowers on the same plant. And for that, for the pollens to move from the male to female, Male to female, yes, that's where you need the pollinators. You need those bees. So these are monoecious. But then in muskmelon, for example, initially the plants are monoecious, but after some time you might even get perfect flowers, which means the flower has both male and female. Few, not a lot, few of them. But primarily these plants are separate male and female flowers. And it's important to know that because of the pollination needs for this particular family. So these are two terms, and Steve mentioned about this. But you will, when you read these seed catalogs, you hear about parthenocarpic. You hear this term called gynoecious. So the parthenocarpic actually means that this particular crop or this particular vegetable does not need pollination to set fruit, which means you can grow this in a greenhouse where there are no insects because there is no need of pollination. So most of the snacking types are parthenocarpic types. So they will primarily have gynoecious flowers, which means most of the flowers are female. So that's the advantage, because you don't need male flowers, you don't need pollination. So in that case, if you buy parthenocarpic, you'll all often see this and this are together, parthenocarpic and gynoecious. That's what you are looking for, especially when you're growing in the greenhouse. You can use that in the high tunnel too. So there's nothing wrong in using it in the high tunnel. So if it's a greenhouse, it definitely has to be parthenocarpic. Yes.
Have you seen really found any parthenocarpic? Sorry. I'm looking for zucchini or summer squash that are parthenocarpic, and I've found references to them, but I haven't actually found available seed because of the shape of my tunnels. We grow the cucumbers on the inside beds, and we're looking for something short. So we were looking for parthenocarpic zucchini or summer squash.
So Kate, this year in January when we had the vegetable course, I did grow a zucchini which was parthenocarpic, and I don't remember the cultivar name, but I can pass that along. We grew
Parthenon.
Is that, oh,
Yeah, that's terrible. Well, it's Parthenon. I mean, it's not glossy at all. It's a dull. I don't know if I mean, yield wise, I don't know quite how it does, but it just doesn't stand out as a glossy green squash or zucchini squash at all. But there may be some more in the pipeline of the parthenocarpic zucchinis, but that's the one that is the most usually on the market, is that Parthenon. So yeah.
So one of the things you will note is if you have grown summer squash, for example, the summer squash, your plant establishes, you have the flower, you have the fruit, and the fruit is slowly enlarging. And after some time, you see that the floral end or the blossom end is rotting. Like it's this big, but the floral end is rotting. And so that happens because of not lack of pollination, but poor pollination. So if there was cloudy day, cloudy weeks when the bees are not able to fly, it's rainy, you'll see more of that. That you'll see that the pollination happened and the fruit is there, but it's not coming to full maturity. So in greenhouse, we sometimes see that, where the fruit is there, but it doesn't go through full because the rotting has happened, because the pollination was not adequate. You need several visits of the bee to the flower for proper pollination to happen. But with gynoecious, we can avoid that. We don't need pollination. But I will pass along. I don't know if that was the cultivar. We did grow in the soilless media. We did add some soil to it, some compost to it, and for 3.5 months, students were able to see what squash looks like, and they harvested, but not of a very high quality, just because of that pollination thing and rotting that happened. So the advantages of the gynoecious types are often referred to as all female. They tend to mature early, so that's another advantage of gynoecious type. They out-yield the standard cultivars and produce a concentrated fruit set, which increases total yield and profitability. So that's also an advantage, not just that pollination is not needed, but also because the yield is higher and the marketable fruit is higher in number. So if you look at cultivars on slicers, there are these are some standard ones which have been popular all across the Midwest. Some of the ones which we have grown for our research, Cobra, Dasher 2, Intimidator, and for some reason, whoever the breeder was loved horror, right? Or maybe loved like snakes. right? The cobra, boa, python. So maybe that's an easy way to then remember. You remember snakes, you remember cucumber. But these are some cultivars that are tried and tested, and they do really well under our growing condition. So now I put this together, a list here, working with Patrick Byers at Missouri, of just putting all the types in there. Are they gynoecious or not? Are they parthenocarpic or not? Are they disease resistant, especially for powdery mildew? So you can see Corinto, it's a slicing type, it's a gynoecious, it's parthenocarpic, it's resistant to powdery mildew. Some other cultivars in there, which we have used, Katrina. It is a slicing type. It is not gynoecious, but it's parthenocarpic, and it's powdery mildew resistant. So just a table to look at to figure out, okay, which one is parthenocarpic, which one.
It's not Taurus, a Japanese cucumber, isn't it? I mean, it's a long.
Is that okay?
I think they classify it as being a Japanese cucumber.
Is that so? Okay.
Yeah, but it has great resistance to powdery mildew.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, yeah, definitely shows that here. You see that powdery mildew resistance. So if you put this some more list, and this is from Johnny's and some other sources, looking at powdery mildew resistance. Again, Corinto, Dasher 2, Diva, all are powdery mildew resistant. Anthracnose, also a disease that you see on cucurbits. You can see Dasher does really well, also on the angular leaf spot. Not very regular here in Iowa, but you sometime in the open field production, you do see angular leaf spot. Diva is also something which is popular, Speedway, and you can also see the number of days it takes to mature. So a lot of options, because this is a crop that is primarily grown both outside in the field and inside the high tunnel. More in terms of pictures, you have those slicer types, the Katrina, the Corinto, Socrates, the Taria, which is a longer type. So all different forms. These are the pickling cucumbers up here. So coming back to pollination, so if they are not gynoecious, if they are not parthenocarpic, definitely you need pollinators in there. It could be bumblebee, it could be honeybee, it could be beneficial insects, hoverflies, any kind of insect intervention that happens. So what I wanted to mention here is that bees are required, and bees are essential, and if they do not make sufficient amount of visits to the flower, the pollination will happen, but it's not adequate. That's where that blossom end rotting sometimes happens, that the floral end starts rotting. So a good example here, these are nice marketable slicer cucumbers. These are Dasher 2, for your information, marketable, but at the same time from the same plot, you get this also. And this is because of several reasons. I think this is, okay, again, definitely pollination related. This beak type thing here is again an issue of lack of pollination, not lack of proper pollination. Anybody wants to guess what this is? Insect damage. Which insect? Cucumber beetles. Yeah, I mean, not just outside, inside also they can play havoc. This is again pollination related. If you see something like this, this is pollination related.
What do you do about black pollen?
So in the open field production, we recommend putting a hive, a beehive. Usually a hive is good for about 1 to 1.5 acres. That's all you need. In a high tunnel, if possible, definitely put a bumblebee hive in there, or you open the sides or the vents so that there's free flow of insects. I know Louis showed us the picture of the sweet alyssum. We purposefully planned that on the baseboards on both sides, because sweet alyssum brings in a lot of beneficials and also pollinators, especially hoverflies. So anything you can do to create a habitat for these insects to come in. That way your pollination is better. I'll not go much in detail, but climatic requirements, in the optimum temperature for cucurbit production is about 82 degrees Fahrenheit. So when it gets 93 and above in the high tunnels, those crops do go under some stress. You can see that here. Higher temperatures could lead to bitterness in the fruit. And that, of course, the consumers are not happy if the fruit is not sweet or it tastes bitter. Ideal pH is 6 to 7, and of course can be grown on a wide range of soils when it comes to cucurbit. They love the sandy soil more, but if it's a little bit of clay on the clay side, it's still okay. Scheduling and planting dates for cucumber. Cucumber requires 32 to 60 days from planting to first harvest. Again, rule of thumb, not exactly, but roughly that's the amount of time it takes from planting. For slicing cucumbers, harvest is every 2 to 3 days for a total of about 7 to 9 harvests. Again, labor, it could depend on the labor. We all know that if we miss to harvest cucumbers, what happens? Right? They gain size very quickly. Fruit gain almost up to 40% in 24 hours, mostly in the open field, and you might even see that in the high tunnel too. And of course, you can plant, but make sure you plant based on labor and how much you can harvest and how much you can sell, because they will grow really well inside the high tunnel. This is inside one of the mini tunnels we have at the Hort Research Station. We were trialing different plastics here. You can see we planted on white and planted on black. The row spacing here is about 4 to 5 feet apart, and within the row spacing 12 to 24 inches. We try to go 24 inches, more space, but you can keep them tight. But when you keep them tight, that's when you have more foliar diseases. You don't want them to be too tight and restrict the amount of airflow inside the high tunnel. So the results from this, between white and black, we didn't find much difference in marketability. The marketable fruit was the same. The white plastic mulch did keep the soil temperature about 1 to 2 degrees lower than the black. So inside the high tunnel, if it's super hot, it does get super hot. If you're thinking about in the summertime, might be better to use the white plastic than the black. This is the price drop I was talking to you earlier about. You can see this is the dollar value per 1 by 9 bushel of the cotton. You can see how the prices are up here, $25, maybe now even more than that, 30 in that range. But as soon as the middle of July hits, the price just falls, just because of the field production cucumbers are out there. It slowly catches up and it tries to go up here. But these are the windows where high tunnels can come handy, early in the season and late in the season. Fertilization, Louis mentioned about soil testing. It's absolutely important because each crop has a specific requirement for nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium and other micronutrients. So it's better to know what is in your soil. $15 to $20 goes a long way. I think that's the best thing you can do when you start your growing season. But typically cucumbers are not like tomatoes that would need maybe 120 to 150 pounds per acre of nitrogen. They are in that 75 to 150, usually 100 is what we look for in most of the cucurbits. We do suggest split applying so that you don't apply all the nitrogen in the beginning. If you can split it, great. If it's an organic fertilizer, maybe you can apply everything all at once, because the organic fertilizer will take time to disintegrate. Microbial activity has to happen, the heat, the tilt in the soil, so that is okay. But if you're using conventional, maybe it's better to split your fertilizer application. Too much nitrogen favors vegetative growth, just like in tomatoes also. Often we hear from growers, oh, the foliage is great, but not much fruit, and that's because too much of nitrogen has been applied. So the plant is still in the vegetative phase. This is a picture which I took at one of the grower high tunnel, and this was a classic example. I don't know if you have seen this. This is potassium deficiency. And the way it doesn't show up like this initially, it starts with general yellowing on the edges. So slight yellowing, and then if you don't take care of it, that yellowing will become necrotic, which means the tissue will die. And that's what you see here. All the edges have scorched. The inside is okay, but the edges are scorched. This is a classic symptom of potassium. So it's important to do the soil test, know what the level of the potassium is, and you apply that in the beginning itself so that you don't get to this stage. In tomatoes, you see that the yellow shoulder disorder. On the shoulder, there's yellowing. That's also attributed to lack of potassium. So soil testing is absolutely important. This is the fertilizer recommendation, especially for phosphorus and potassium. So if your soil, when you do a soil test, send it for soil test analysis, and the analysis comes back, you can look at the phosphorus levels and kind of have an idea where you are. This is a generic recommendation. We usually look at the what the ppm is, what the soil type is, and then we recommend how much of P and how much of K. But usually, if you are in that 16 ppm to 50 ppm range, you are in the okay range. It doesn't mean that you should not apply any P, but you should apply less amount of phosphorus. But if you are above 50 parts per million of phosphorus in your soil test report, that is high. You don't need, you can skip phosphorus for that year. But oftentimes that doesn't happen. Growers still apply fertilizer which will have phosphorus in it. So 50 ppm is the upper threshold for phosphorus. And when it comes to potassium, it's between 200 to 250. If you have 300 parts per million of potassium or 350, 400, you are too much, you're too high on potassium. What that means is that year, don't apply too much potassium. Let the level come down and test it again next year. Organic matter wise, yeah, we would love to have minimum 3% organic matter, and you can go higher than that. The more organic matter, the better it is. Irrigation, very important inside high tunnels because there's no rain. Rule of thumb is about 1 to 2 inches of water per week. We use two major things. One is the tensiometer, which is about $80 to $100. Easy, it's an analog reading. You look at the needle, when it's at 0, it's saturated. When it goes up till 30, it's dry. You water it, you bring it back to 0. So it's fairly easy. Or you can use a digital one. Hobo is the one which we have used in the past. Kate, you have a question?
I was just curious what depth.
Okay, good question. The question is about the depth. For vegetable, usually 6 inches to 12 inches. 12 is about a foot. If you can go a foot, great. But if you are anywhere between 6 to 12 inches, it's good. And it depends on the average rooting depth of the vegetable also. So in case of tomatoes, peppers, the average rooting depth is between 12 to 18 inches, sometimes even 24 inches. But in the case of lettuce, for example, these are shallow crops. So in that case, even if you can go 6 inches down, it's okay. Our rule of thumb is 12 inches. We usually go 12 inch. So we know when the drip is running, it makes sure that the water has reached all the way till the 12-inch mark. Tensiometer, again, $80 to $90. Hobo is what we are testing right now with our phone. So some of my grad students are here. They work on those projects where you can bring your phone and you go close to it and it'll give you the moisture content. And based on that, you can decide whether you want to water or not. So we are moving more towards the Internet of Things because everything is phone-based. It's easier if you can just go there, close to it, look at it, and then decide, rather than figuring out and doing calculation to figure out how to water. So weed management, I'm sure you all are, if you're growing in a high tunnel, if you might be either using mulch or using some kind of a plastic material. Here in this case, we are using the white on black. That's to reduce the heat stress inside the high tunnel. Black can definitely induce more stress because of the high temperatures inside the high tunnel. This is Mike Buskey. He's a grower from Fort Dodge. And this is what Mike does at his place, is he has this white weed fabric, which he had made holes in, and then he plants in there. But that white weed fabric helps to keep the soil a little cooler and also reflects light back into the canopy. So the vegetative growth is a little better. So this is what his technique is. You can see the drip running and the holes where he would plant his cucumbers. It's black on the other side. Yes. The question is,
So you can purchase that then?
Yes, you can purchase that.
Okay.
Yes. The white one, which has the black at the under, is more expensive. The black one is cheaper. If it's just plain black, it's cheaper. So in our vegetable plots, almost maybe 3 or 4 years now, we are just using that black weed fabric to manage weeds between plastic mulches. Otherwise, we'll be hoeing or we'll be cultivating. We just roll out the weed fabric, and at the end of the season, we roll back the weed fabric. Trellising, obviously, it's important that we trellis because if you just let them on the ground, I like the point which Lewis mentioned that the bees find it a little difficult, but maybe we didn't find any marketable difference. We did find marketable differences if you trellis versus if you just leave it on the ground. And that the marketable difference was not in the total yield, but was on the marketable yield. So we got more non-marketable fruit, like the ones with poor pollination, in this versus this one. Kate,
Did you look at single or double leader, or were you pruning?
that's a good
balancing?
that's a good question. Were we pruning or not? We were not pruning. So what we were doing is, I'll show you a picture here. This was our system.
Okay.
So what we did is, we have the plastic mulches, we put the cattle panel, we have the cinder block in there just to settle, and the T-post, and we just clipped them on this panel. And when it reached one side, I just flipped it over. Not the right way to do it. If I do it again, I would definitely prune it, because it becomes a jungle in there. It's very difficult. You even go in and harvest. But we are not looking for a very long. We were just looking at the early season crop, and by the middle of summer, we are done.
Ajay,
Yes.
can you talk through the cinder blocks underneath there? Was it just to get extra height on those cattle panels?
Yeah, the question is about cinder block. Yes, it's to get a little bit more height on the cattle panel, because otherwise the cattle panel will be sitting on the plastic mulch. It also tear the mulch, but this way it's off, and it was a task to trellis. If you don't remove the suckers, or if you don't do that, then there's so much happening. So we were just holding everything and putting it with clips. But if I do it next time, I will definitely prune and just have single or double leader just be clipped right onto the cattle panel. But we had a lot of cattle panel at the farm, so we went this route. And it was a small tunnel too. It was not very high. So that's the best we could have done in that. I know we talk about the lower and lean. This is from the Sleepy Root Farm in Wisconsin, and many of our growers do this, where they will lower as the plant grows bigger, and they will remove the leaves to create more air flow in there. This is again Plant Peddler. This is Mike Gooder, and what he's doing is he's growing them in these pots. And these are cucumbers, those slicing type, the snack type cucumber. He has these ropes hanging in there on which he will trellis. And you notice that he has the silver foil on top of it. And any idea why he is using that? Reflecting light, that's another one thing. And also for insect management, especially for thrips. And so he thinks that because of this, and we do that. We do have mulches outside when we grow in the field, those reflective mulches that actually reflect and they disorient the pest. So that's why he's using that in there. This is how it looks like. And in his case, there is heat also running underneath. And this is a greenhouse, by the way. This is not a high tunnel, this is a greenhouse. And it's a great way to capitalize on that early market, those snacking cucumbers. Just to show you as an example, this is the open field production where we are growing them on black plastic mulch, no pruning, nothing, just they grow, and you regularly, almost 3 times a week you have to harvest. 2 times, not 3, sorry. So quickly talking about major pests, I think the cucumber beetle is the major one. For cucurbits, you do get some diseases, the bacterial wilt, fusarium. We don't see much of fusarium here in Iowa, but we do see downy mildew late in the season. We do see powdery mildew late in the season. This year, we had some virus issues, and that was more with the tomatoes, Dan, the virus, the viral issues. But overall, I mean, most of our growers don't spray any fungicide, don't spray much of an insecticide. But I think if you compare between insecticide and fungicide, I think it's insecticide that we spray more, especially for cucurbit crops. Because by the time the end of the season, the harvest is over, we are, getting.
You don't see white flies. You don't see white flies.
So tomatoes maybe, but in cucumbers, I've not experienced much white flies in the high tunnel. But tomatoes, yes. A cucumber beetle, this is how the damage looks like. You can see scraping on the leaves, and this is what happens later. This is bacterial wilt that follows cucumber beetle. It's caused by a bacterium called Erwinia trachyphylla, which is in the gut of that cucumber beetle. And as it goes from plant to plant, it is spreading that bacterium. And this is what it looks like, the wilt, where the plant just, in the daytime, the leaf will just droop. And eventually, things will die. So it's hard to tell this to growers, but if you see something like this, you should take that plant out. Should not keep that plant there. Because you are creating more problem, because more this inoculum is already in that plant, the more insects will go there, suck the sap and spread it. So as soon as you see that, just rogue that plant out. And the best way to manage bacterial wilt is to manage cucumber beetles. So conventionally you can manage, but organically it is not that easy. Some more pictures to show you how the cucumber beetle damage looks like on the fruit. Sometimes you have that honeydew also on there, you can scrape that. There are several insecticides available for conventional production, but if you're an organic grower, it becomes a little challenging. So in conventional, we primarily at the farm, we use the acetamiprid, which is Acel. We use S-fenvalerate, which is Asana. Those are very effective against cucumber beetle. We spray once a week, and that takes care of things. You can use permethrin as well. We try to avoid the imidacloprid just because of the bees and how damaging it could be to them. Mustang Max is also the one which works great on many of the pests. So zeta-cypermethrin is also it's a good active ingredient to use. But when it comes to organic, it is challenging. I know some of you might have used Pyganic, and you keep spraying Pyganic, and you have to regularly spray. It is expensive. It is not cheap. And so we try to find out some other ways of how to make insect management effective. So we tried a mix of kaolin clay, neem oil, and Pyganic. So we mixed all those three together and we sprayed. And we think that the efficacy is a little better than just one thing. You could just use kaolin clay and coat it so it becomes less tasty for the beetle. You can neem oil, but neem oil also evaporates. It degrades in the sun. But if you mix all three together, it could be a bit more effective. So we did. This is part of the mesotunnel project. We had a trial. We had a comparison in which we were growing muskmelons under mesotunnel versus outside. And for outside, this is what we were using to keep the pests at bay, because this was an organic project. Post-harvest handling, I'm not going to go much in detail, but there are a lot of categories when it comes to slicing cucumber: US Fancy, US Extra #1, mostly for large scale, wholesale and retail. But one thing I want to mention, and I don't have it here in the slide, is many of you are growing not just cucurbits, but many other vegetables, and you might be wondering what is the appropriate temperature to store your produce. So there is a handbook which is available online. It's called the USDA Handbook number 66. So if you just Google that, USDA Handbook number 66, it's an amazing manual. It's a PDF. You can download that. It has everything about storage, post-harvest handling of all the fruits and vegetables. So any confusion you have, carrots, where should I store? What temperature? What humidity? Go to USDA Handbook number 66. It's a great resource. Finally, the last slide, certainly it's profitable to grow cucurbits inside the high tunnel. We tried the specialty melons. We tried the cucumbers. I would say cucumbers would be more, because with trellising there were some issues with the weight. Even though 1 to 3 pound specialty melons, it's a little challenging, and to know the maturity also, but it's a great alternative if you're looking for other cucurbit crops. Excellent for crop rotation if you're going from tomato to a different family. Insect management is critical, of course, trellising, and then regular harvest. We cannot just wait for it to mature and wait 2 more days. You need to get the right quality. You have to harvest at the right stage. So that's very important for cucurbits. So with that, we work with several grower organizations: the Iowa Fruit and Vegetable, now the Iowa Specialty Crop Growers Association, the Leopold Center, Practical Farmers of Iowa, funding from SARE, and of course USDA, NIFA, and AFRI projects. So a lot goes in there. So several grad students involved in some of the cucurbit work I have done in the past. And we have some new grad students, and they are working on different crops. I know Smriti is here and Akshaya, both of them are working with ProtectNet. So if you have a question about ProtectNet, you can ask them. Eggplant and broccoli is what they're focusing on, and Chinese cabbage. And Carly is here. Carly works on tarping and how for weed management. Onion was the crop we selected. So any questions you have, you can definitely reach out to the grad students here as well. So questions? happy to answer. Yes, Benny.
Is there anything we can do in the off season like now? Like how do they overwinter?
Yeah, so cucumber beetles are there are two types, the striped cucumber beetles and the spotted. The striped one is the one that overwinters in Iowa. The spotted ones come from the south. They travel the jet stream and the storms, and that's how they land here. The striped one, they overwinter as adults. And the place where they overwinter are any hideouts, cracks in the woods, debris. So if you have cucumber beetle, at the end of the season, it will be good to just pull all the residue out of that plot. But you can do only so much. They will go into the woods, they will go under rocks, and they overwinter as adults and then come back in the spring. Yes, Kate.
We had been applying beneficial or parasitic, depending on how you want to phrase that, nematodes. And it's pretty expensive, and we couldn't really tell if that was working. How do we feel about research on that? Beneficial nematode application.
Yeah, it's hard. In the greenhouse industry, they use this Steiner nema. That's a nematode which they use for managing fungus gnats and those in the soil. I know there are certain products that you can use in the soil for vegetables also. The effectiveness will also depend on the environmental condition, if it's conducive for them to grow. And we have not done any specific work with them. And if you are trying to manage, for example, cucumber beetles with them, because there's a life cycle of cucumber beetle which is in the soil. They come back in the spring as adults, they mate, and they lay the egg underneath the plant. So if that's the time, so you need to get the right time where you can apply that through drip irrigation and hoping that will attack the larva that is growing in the soil. Even this life cycle of the larva is about 7 to 10 days, and after that larva will emerge into adults and they'll be out there again mating. So to catch that right window is not easy. I think in vegetables what I've seen more is many of us are releasing beneficials like lady beetles and lacewing larvae. We did that in one of Smriti's project this year, again to manage major pests, aphids primarily. And for that also you have to regularly release. We are on a schedule, like it gets a little expensive, but it was working, and it was under mesa tunnel, so we are keeping everything in there. And that's why those biologicals work really well in greenhouses, because they are all in there, they don't fly out. But yeah, it's a cool area to look at.
Sorry.
On the average, how long do you have between sprays in the greenhouse to control the beetle, the cucumber beetle?
So the question is, what's the interval to manage cucumber beetles, the spray interval? We shoot for 7 to 10. If it's pyganic, I go between 5 to 7. If I'm using Asana or Asail or Zeta cypermethrin, Mustang Max, I go sometime even 10, because that's weekly. Yeah, weekly is a good rule of thumb, but if you're using some of those conventional ones, you can go to 10. You don't have to do weekly. So that way you can limit the amount of your personal exposure and applying it out there in the environment. So it's better if you can have a longer interval. But if it's pyganic, 5 to 7, because it wears down very quickly.
Are the cucumber beetles more nocturnal, or do you see them throughout the day as well?
Yeah, I think you see them more during the daytime, not much later in the evening. Sometimes even when the flower opens, you can see inside the flower, they're all in there. But yeah, they cause damage, severe damage.
What about insect exclusion nets on the sides of your high tunnels?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. So Cole has a question about insect exclusion nets, and that's where maybe that Protect net can come handy. We have not tried it at the Hort Research Station, but Cole, yeah, that's one way to limit, because the sides can roll up or down, but the netting will still be there, so that will limit the entry. One place where we have seen them used is for the SWD, spotted wing Drosophila, on brambles. To manage them, many growers use those Protect net on the sides, because that allows the air to go in, but not the pest. So yes, that is one of the alternatives, especially if you're growing inside the high tunnel. Mm-hmm.
So on one of your slides, you were talking about 7 to 9 harvest of the cucumber.
Sure.
But then you also talked about hook and lean method. So then it's like, well, you could start them in the spring and go all the way till October on the same plant. Is there any
So the 7 to
does
9
it drop off?
Yeah,
or anything like
7
that?
to 9 is primarily, I would say, more for the field production. So we would transplant middle of May, and then from there on, it takes about 25, 30 days for the fruit to start forming. And then in a week, if you harvest twice, you're looking about 6 weeks, or maybe 6 times to 12 harvests there. In the high tunnel, the lower and the lean, typically, if you are regularly harvesting, you might be able to harvest more than that. That doesn't limit you to that 7 to 10. You can go all the way till the end, but overall, you'll see as the fall comes, the light quality goes down, the temperature goes down, and the vigor of the plant slowly goes down. So at some point, you will hit that, point where the yield is slowly automatically coming down. It doesn't just keep going up and up. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I know.